Hello, beautiful people. Today is 1st of August. My name is Sahil and welcome to Newspaper Analysis. Guys, on to the occasion of National Education Policy 2020. Today we'll take a quote from B.R. Ambedkar onto the pretext of education. He says that cultivation of mind should be the ultimate aim of the human existence. So, guys, how the cultivation of mind will take place? It will only be taking place when there will be the adequate education oriented hard infrastructure as well as soft infrastructure into the country. Hard infrastructure means the institutions, schools, setup, and all that kind of thing, and soft infrastructure means that human resource, government will, as well as the aspiration into the masses to get the education. And the new education policy in this regard could be a very fruitful step if implemented properly, and if such a thing is kept in mind by the implementing agencies, government, as well as bureaucracy. Guys, we can use this particular quote in GS paper number 2, where the topic of education becomes very important under the social justice. Moreover, it can also be used onto the essays concerning the education or ideas. And now, guys, the main question that I gave you yesterday. So the question said that telecom sector is one of the most crucial component of infrastructural backbone of India, but still adequate attention has not been given to it and it faces various systemic challenges. Comment. Now, guys, it is simply asking you the relevance of telecom sector and the problems associated with the telecom sector. So in introduction, we can write directly about the relevance of telecom sector, and in body we will address the problems. Now, guys, in introduction, you can write that telecom sector's role has been changed from assistive to sustaining because of the unprecedented dependence onto the telecom sector. Moreover, not only it sustains economy, but it has also become a very important part in connecting the people. So therefore, it is not only an economic but also a social force. But its functioning has been marred by a lot of systemic challenges, and these systemic challenges pertain on many front. Number one challenge could be there, the regulatory regime. And guys, onto the regulatory regime, the high-handedness of the TRAI as well as the AGR issue you can mention, which we discussed yesterday. Now, because of the AGR, so much of the revenue is to be paid by the telecom sectors that it questions the entire existence. A kind of a existential crisis have came. After that, guys, see, though into the consumer welfare this point might not sound that much good, but guys, for sustainability we need to have the constant revenue streams, and right now the average revenue per user in India is declining. Why? Because of the monopolizing tendencies of certain telecom providers. And in that particular direction, guys, I am talking about the Geo. The TRAI has not acted into the foresight, due to which a kind of a domino effect has been created, and other telecoms are also going towards a kind of a financial crisis. Then, guys, thirdly, into the era of 5G, there is need for the better spectrum allocation, but government of India's policy with respect to the spectrum allocation have always been discouraging. For example, keeping the reserve price for the spectrum inhibits the financial viability. So, guys, these kind of challenges are there which you can mention, and it will give a very good impression because of the specificity which have been mentioned into these points. So, guys, this was the framework of the questions on which you need to write, although most of these points we have discussed already yesterday. So that's it, and now let's take the newspaper analysis. Now, guys, first of all, let's take the overview of the entire paper first. So, guys, here we can see that the core sector has been mentioned. So with respect to the prelims, we'll see certain things here. Then, guys, fiscal deficit target of 83% has been reached. We'll see the implications with respect to our exam. Now, guys, here the Kendriya Vidyalayas and its contention with respect to the National Education Policy of 2020 has been mentioned. So, guys, we'll see that what are the issues here. Then, guys, moving forward, these news are not important for our exam. Then, guys, into the city page also you can see that nothing important issues have been given with respect to the UPSC exam. So regional news not important for our paper. Now, guys, here the Asmita scheme has been mentioned. Now, guys, see, two things are there. One thing is good, one thing is bad. Guys, according to a Smita scheme, the vending machines will be installed so that the girls can get from their highly subsidized sanitary napkins, and it will be furthering the menstrual health of the girls. So, guys, very good intention. But bad, why? Because till now, not even a single vending machine has been installed, and that thing has been told. So, guys, just for the reference, keep in mind the Asmita initiative by the Maharashtra. We can use it somewhere, but that's it. Now, guys, here the foster care scheme has been mentioned. So, guys, in this we will be taking the issue of adoption, the issue of the Kara, the issue of the Hague Convention, etc. in great detail. Then, guys, next we come to the editorial section. This editorial talks about the rising number of cases, rising number of fatalities, and still the unlock 3.0 has been made. Guys, not important for your exam, because till then all these things will be changing. Then, guys, here the draft EIA has been mentioned. Then, guys, here the metropolitan battle, the failure of metropolitan cities has been mentioned. We'll see. Then, guys, here the Taliban peace talks have been mentioned. We'll be seeing. So, guys, comprehensively we'll see this thing. Then, guys, here today is Saturday, so we have the ground zero, where the ground problems of the people in a crisis are mentioned. Guys, for exam we are not needed to see the problems or the accounts of people, but, guys, the one bigger issue is there, the issue of crisis of floods into the Assam. And for that particular thing, on 18th of July, I have taken a very comprehensive coverage onto the floods at the timestamp of 7:37, where I had discussed the issue of the embankment failure, the geographical reason, and all such reasons with the Assam flooding. You can refer to that particular article. Though here also some reference has been given, but not substantial with respect to the exam. Then, guys, moving forward. So, nothing important has been given here. Then, guys, here the NEP has been mentioned and certain things have been clarified. So, we'll be seeing this thing. Then, guys, here government will be celebrating the Muslim Women Rights Day onto the August 1st, because then the triple talaq came in place. Guys, just this, if comes into reference, you will use. However, no need to go into the deeper details. Then, guys, here Gorkha Pact has been mentioned. We'll see what has been given. Now, guys, if you remember, in past few days we had discussed the quotes from the Muhammad Yunus, who was the founder of the idea of the Grameen Bank. Now, he had addressed a virtual conference where he had told that the pandemic can be an opportunity. We can sensitize the people, we can sensitize the communities with respect to the environment, zoonotic disease, etc., and we should utilize that thing. So that thing has been said here. Then, guys, moving forward, here you can see that a foreign policy dimension has been given. So, guys, we'll see this thing could be important for our exam. After that, guys, nothing important thing. Then showcase page, not important for our exam. Then, guys, onto the world's page also, the conflict, etc. has been mentioned. Afghan truce, will see it with the editorial. Then, guys, onto the business page, corporate news, not important for our exam. Center is saying that we are working with RBI. Guys, up till point of concrete policy doesn't comes, you need not to see the day-to-day developments. The decoupling of China has been mentioned. So, guys, we'll see certain data as how this decoupling might be bad for the India also. Then, guys, the sports page. So, guys, nothing important has been given. So that's it. And now let's take the newspaper analysis in detail. Now, guys, starting up, so this first article discusses certain issues involved with the new National Education Policy 2020. First of all, guys, you already might have seen my separate video onto the NEP where I had taken the holistically entire policy, because only onto that line it is talking about. So, guys, into new education policy, there is a provision with respect to providing education to the children up to 5th standard into their mother tongue or into the regional local language. Now, with respect to this particular provision, an issue has crept up, that is, what about the Kendriya Vidyalayas? Now, guys, Kendriya Vidyalayas have a purpose that they will serve the children of the employees who are into the central government, and many a times these employees are prone to frequent transfers, and there could even be a possibility that up to 5th standard the children might go to 10 states. Then how it is possible that he will be imparted education into 10 different languages? In that capacity he will not be able to grasp even into one language. Moreover, even if mother tongue will be preferred, then guys, into one class of Kendriya Vidyalaya, there will be students from so many states. So how every student will be provided education in different mother tongue? How so much of resources will be devoted? So it has been said that the Kendriya Vidyalaya might not opt this provision of providing the education up to 5th standard into the mother tongue or the regional language, because of they are serving to the central government employees. Moreover, guys, it has also been said that the CBSE might also not be implementing this particular provision in NEP, because it also serves a large number of central government employees who are into the transferable jobs. Moreover, guys, there could be one more point. See, here it has been said that the Kendriya Vidyalayas are, the classrooms are the miniature India, because in one class, students from so many states, so many different languages are studying together. Now, guys, can we say that these classrooms celebrate the diversity, because so many languages students are having there, and by imposing one language that could be the regional or mother tongue, then we could be doing travesty to such kind of diversity. And on such line, an interview was also made with the Minister of Education, and he had said that the national education policy had a beauty, that is the flexibility. It has been said that the ultimate implementing decision will be taken by the state government, and if they feel that certain provisions might not be implemented successfully or might not be that much effective, then they had the liberty that they can drop that particular thing. So guys, here there is no rigidity into that particular respect, and flexibility has been given. And guys, by this particular thing, we can also use it as an example in answer, where we can say that the federalistic ethos has been respected, because states are being given a flexibility in deciding, and as education happens to be a very important topic, such a thing is appreciated. Now, one more issue comes here. It was said that the NEP was not debated into the parliament, therefore it has not been subjected to the scrutiny. So in that particular direction, it has been said that NEP has been made onto the basis of 2 lakh plus suggestions which have been received by various gram panchayats, blocks, urban local bodies, NGOs, etc. So to say that it is not inclusive or it is not debated enough, that will be a wrong thing. Then guys, after that, one more issue we will see. So issue number 3, it has been said that you had provided a provision to provide language up to 5th class into the mother tongue, but how you will hire so many of teachers who will be skilled into such kind of languages, because there is so much shortage of skilled literary teachers. So here it has been said that the states can involve into the teacher exchange program, where they can exchange the skilled teachers into some of the languages. Then guys, issue number 4, it has also been said into the NAP, we had discussed in NAP that a Higher Education Commission of India HACI will be established. Now this is a very old thing, and still the bill is pending into the parliament. So what and there are certain controversies also with respect to HACI. It has been said that it will make education system too much centralized. So guys, that questions have, that criticism has also not been answered, and just out of the push, HACI has also been suggested. Then guys, issue number 5, it has also been said that into the original draft that was submitted by the Kasturi Rangan committee, there was a proposal to establish the Rashtriya Shiksha Ayog to oversee the education in India, and this Rashtriya Shiksha Ayog will be headed directly by the Prime Minister. But such high powered body has not been established, and it has been dropped. In response, it has been said that the CABE, that is the Central Advisory Body for Education, will be empowered, and there is no need to create one more unnecessary body. And finally, the most important issue comes, that is with respect to the finance. First of all, it has been said that the 6% of GDP will be spent into the education. Now, two questions comes out of this. Question number one, will this 6% of GDP sufficient to implement all the reforms into the NEP? And the second question is that, okay, if it is possible, then how even such resource will be coming, because center is going for the resource crunch? Will they be going for the borrowing? Because even without this borrowing, we are breaching the fiscal deficit target. So what will be done? So guys, there it has been said that yes, if the need arises, the center might go for the borrowing, and state and center will be working into the collaborative partnership, and the resources will be pulled up. And guys, finally, we had also seen that the name of the Ministry of HRD has been changed to the Ministry of Education. Now, guys, why such thing was needed? Simply to divert the focus on education. Moreover, guys, there could also be one more reason, very strategic one, that since there have been so many days that government had not changed any name, so now it was high time that one name at least should be changed. So that thing here would also be helping. However, guys, jokes apart, now we'll go to next. Now, guys, this article talks about the declining growth rate into the core sector. Now, first of all, for our exam, you need not to see that how much growth or how much decline is going into the core sector, because such data will be changed very frequently. However, for prelims exam, certain concepts are there and we will revise them now. First of all, the core sector which has been mentioned here into the news, it is a part of IIP, which stands for Index of Industrial Production. Now guys, as it is an index, so the purpose of index is to show the trend or movement into certain thing. So IIP is the production based industrial trend. So guys, it shows that production into the industry, whether it is going up or down, or even if it is going negative, which has been the case here. Now guys, it captures the industrial trends in certain segments such as the manufacturing, mining, electricity, etc. Now guys, into the IIP, every subsector or sector is given some weight onto the basis of its relevance in economy. Now guys, within IIP, the 8 sectors or 8 industries are very much important because they have given the highest weight. In total IIP, these 8 industries alone have approximately 40% of weight, and therefore they are called as the core. So guys, if their growth is going down, we get a trend that the entire IIP is down. If their growth is up, we can say that entire IIP is doing good. So guys, this is an indication. Now, these are the 8 components. Now guys, as they have 40% weight, in this 40%, the highest is for the petroleum and refinery production, and the lowest is for the fertilizer production. So guys, just keep in mind which has the highest weight and which has the lowest weight could be important for our exam. And as a total, the items of the core sector, earlier also it has been asked. Now guys, coming to the news item, we can see that the lockdown and economic activities are at such lower level that now people are not raising demand. And when they will not raise a demand, for whom the supply will be made, for whom the production will be made? So production going down, it means that the demand is not there, or a kind of an economic slump is going on. Okay guys, so these are our things. Now some other factual things. IIP, it has a base year that is 2011 and 12. Then IIP is released by the National Statistical Office. Guys, you might find somewhere that CSO is written, but just a few days back, CSO and NSSO have been merged into the NSO. But guys, still, within NSO, the CSO is still maintained as a distinct office. So both will be correct, but this is more precise kind of thing. Then guys, this is base year. After that, there is one more thing, that is the annual survey of industries. Guys, this ASI denotes the annual trend, and this is also now released by the NSO, that is the National Statistical Office. So these are two industry based indices. Please keep in mind, guys, absolute growth or decline you need not to keep in mind. That's it. Now we'll move to next. Now, guys, this particular news item concerns the higher fiscal deficit which government is going to incur. Now, before going into the news, guys, see, there is the FRBM Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act of 2003, which said that government should progressively reduce the fiscal deficit. Now, guys, see, when government is spending more money than what it is receiving by tax and other kind of receipts, then a kind of a deficit is incurred. Now, guys, such a deficit is to be plugged by raising more money from the market, and because the money is borrowed, then again there will be the interest obligations and the financial health will be going down. Now, guys, first of all, there are other technicalities also into the deficit. There is the effective revenue deficit, etc., but right now I will not be going into that technicalities, otherwise we will deviate from our main topic. So, guys, the fiscal deficit limits were imposed by the FRBM Act of 2003, but due to the weak fiscal positions, 2009 global meltdown, etc., government just postponed the implementation of FRBM and did not actually implemented it. Then, guys, finally in 2016, government asked the NK Singh committee that you suggest that how now we can implement the FRBM Act. Now, guys, NK Singh committee submitted its report in 2017, and it suggested the new set of targets to reduce the fiscal deficit. Now, guys, this year's center government took a target that they will be containing fiscal deficit to only 3.5%. But as we know that the pandemic has came and even the more expenditure is need to be made, but on the other hand, money is not coming because the tax collection and all these kind of things are very low. So it has been said that whatever government was allowed, 83% of that has already reached. And now, guys, according to certain experts, government can incur fiscal deficit from 6.5% to 8%. Lower estimate is 6.5, upper is 8, and hence we will not be able to fulfill the original target of 3.5%. So, guys, this is the fiscal challenges that are coming to the government into the aftermath of COVID-19. Moreover, if you remember, just 2-3 days back we had seen the GST issue where the states are asking their GST compensation, but center doesn't have the money. Now, guys, if that entire GST money will be given, for that also even new borrowings will be made, and guys, there could be a further apprehension that even more fiscal deficit will be incurred. So, guys, that's all about this particular thing. Guys, these are very small topics, but they are very much crucial for your broader understanding. That's it. Now we'll move to next. Now, guys, here with respect to GS paper number 2, child issues, we can see that Maharashtra is coming out with the foster care scheme. Now, before understanding fostering, we will understand the adoption. So, guys, adoption is a process where a person adopts a child, and by the virtue of his adoption, the father owes all the rights as well as obligation to the children as a biological father would be having. Now, guys, with respect to adoption in India, we have the Central Adoption Resource Authority CARA, which is constituted under the Ministry of Women and Child Development. And, guys, it regulates all the adoptions. Moreover, with respect to the international adoptions, there is the Hague Convention, which government of India had signed as well as ratified, and in correspondence to this convention, CARA also regulates the international adoptions. Moreover, guys, according to the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Act 2015, it has been said that all the agencies which are housing the orphan children, they should be linked to the adoption agencies, so that the people who are childless, they can adopt the children, and these children can also get a hope for the better future. Now, guys, this was all adoption. Now, talking about fostering. So, fostering is a little bit less formal than the adoption. In fostering, a person sponsors a child, he becomes a guardian. Now guys, there will be a relation, a child can live the with the foster parent, but the liabilities, rights and duties which are there into the adoption, they are not that much into the fostering. So guys, fostering can also be a mechanism where a person looking to adopt a child can foster him, can see whether he is fitting with the child, and then go for the adoption, because there the legalities will be more into the adoption. So now guys, as Maharashtra is coming out with the scheme, so more people will be sensitized with respect to the fostering, the processes will be made convenient, and this is very good for the children welfare. So guys, this is all about the fostering and adoption. You don't need to go into the nitty gritties of this particular scheme because it is for the state specific. Now guys, some more deeper issues if we see. Friends, I told you that the Kara is responsible for the adoptions. Then there was an RTI made to the Kara, and Kara revealed that between 2017 to 19, out of 6,650 children which were adopted, 278 children have been returned back onto the pretext of disruption. Now guys, this disruption happens when either the child or the parent, they are unable to adjust with each other, and because of this they want to terminate the adoption agreement. So guys, this is a very high number in India, and it shows that still there is a need of a psychological mindset so that people can actually fulfill the obligations of the adoption. So guys, in that particular direction also, the fostering will be helping, because it will give a kind of a window whereby the limited obligations, they can try whether their relation with the child is working or not. Now guys, just for a reference, if a question directly on this line only comes, why people are returning children? Guys, see, into the adoption procedures of India, they are just recently after the Juvenile Justice Act of 2015, one change was made, and Kara introduced a new category, that is the category of immediate placement. So this immediate placement is a process where very fast adoptions can take place, and here the children who are hard to place, they are put there. Now who are hard to place children? These are the children with the special abilities or children who are little bit older. So guys, people adopted the children under the immediate placement category, and then they found the difficulties and they are returning back the children. Guys, this is a very big issue in context of society as well as child related issues. So guys, that's it, and now we'll move to next. Now friends, we are into the editorial section, and this editorial talks about the Taliban peace talks, and it could be an important topic with respect to the neighborhood issues GS2. Now guys, see, before going into the present article, we'll look a brief background. So in 2001, you might have heard about the 9/11 attacks which were made into the USA, and the responsibility of 9/11 attacks fell onto the Al Qaeda, which was given a protection by the Taliban. And guys, Taliban and Al Qaeda, two terrorist outfits, were hand in glove into this attack. Now, Taliban as well as Al Qaeda both have taken refuge into the Afghanistan, and therefore Afghanistan was considered to be the breeding ground for the terrorism. And in response, America started the Operation Enduring Freedom in order to drive out the terrorist organizations from the Afghanistan. And guys, in response, the coalition forces were stationed into Afghanistan. Coalition forces means that it has the troops from the America as well as from allies. And now guys, since 2001 to 2020, the war is going on in Afghanistan between the troops as well as by the Taliban's, and large number of people have lost their life. Economy of Afghanistan has been shattered. There are political crises going on. Human development is not there. And guys, now even the USA has been very tired with this problem which is going on. Now guys, see, in 2017, a kind of a change started to come. Donald Trump said that we will rather send even more troops into the Afghanistan so that for once and all we can finish this entire thing. But guys, soon America and Donald Trump realized that they can't kill Taliban because Taliban was given protection by the Pakistan. They had safe havens into the Pakistan. So USA thought that now it is a time that we should involve in negotiation with the Taliban, and in 2018 negotiation started between the US and Taliban, which were brokered or which were assisted by the Pakistan. So guys, till now the 9 rounds of negotiations have been taken place, and finally in 2020 peace agreement is signed between the US as well as Taliban. Now, guys, see, there are certain terms and conditions under this peace agreement. Condition number one is that USA will withdraw all their troops within 14 months, and gradual withdrawal will start within 135 days. Nearly 8,500 troops will be withdrawn. Second thing is that United Nations as well as USA will remove all the sanctions from the Taliban which has been imposed. Then, guys, thirdly, it has been said that in return, Taliban needs to give up the violence as well as the activities which it is carrying against the US and its allies. Then, guys, there was one more thing. It was said that the Afghan government will release 5,000 plus prisoners who belong to Taliban and they have been arrested. So all this deal was signed by in February 2020. It has also been endorsed by the United Nations Security Council. But guys, there are certain problems in this particular deal. Number one problem here is that USA had given this deal to Taliban without constructively involving the Afghanistan. Secondly, guys, USA by talking to Taliban has recognized the Taliban which operates onto the communalism and policy of jihad, and therefore USA has undermined the democracy, rule of law, constitutionalism. After that, guys, see, Taliban as well as Afghanistan, they hate each other. According to the Talibanis, the political government which is there in Afghanistan, it is illegitimate and they should not rule. So guys, there is a faction which is going on, and now it has been said that USA is making a way to take exit from Taliban, and it has not dealt the equation between the Taliban and Afghanistan effectively. Guys, moreover, there is one more problem. Afghanistan, it has been said that the Afghan government will release 5,000 prisoners who belong to Taliban, but Afghanistan say that we will not release them because they have committed serious crimes. Moreover, how you can order us that we should release the prisoners? So we will not take do that thing. Now, guys, this is one set of controversy. Now, because of the problem between Taliban and Afghanistan, it was said that a intra-Afghan dialogue will also be started, and this intra-Afghan dialogue will try to resolve the disputes between the Taliban and Afghanistan. But guys, till now nothing substantial has been achieved, though Afghanistan has said that they will release the 5,000 prisoners, but till now neither Taliban has given up the violence which it is carrying, nor there is the full withdrawal of the USA. The matters are struck. Now, guys, coming to the present news article here. So, the present news article says that now, just a few days back, Taliban had said that onto the occasion of Eid, they are announcing a kind of a ceasefire agreement. And guys, here, due to this ceasefire, also there will be the exploration between the Taliban as well as Afghanistan onto the intra-Afghanistan dialogue. So now it has been said that it is high time that both should reach a common ground and some lasting solution should be found out. And guys, here USA should also constructively involve. See, guys, if we see the situation of Afghanistan, Afghanistan is in a very fragile condition. Number one, as it has been said that the USA will pull out, there could be a possibility that Taliban will get free hand with Afghanistan against Afghanistan's government, and it can cripple the entire political system there. So Afghanistan needs to find a common ground before this happens. Secondly, guys, in Afghanistan, the political crisis also is also going on, because last year when the presidential elections happened, it was alleged that the President Ghani had used the malpractices into the election, and his rival Abdullah said that he rather should be the legitimate president. However, although political crises have been set to ground because Abdullah was given some other position into the government, that is the position of the head of the High Council for National Reconciliation, whose responsibility is mainly to talk with the Taliban. But guys, still there is a possibility that into the times to come, the political crisis can again come. Then guys, Afghanistan is also facing the problem of the present pandemic of COVID-19. So it is also time that Afghanistan should find a common ground. Then there is also one more issue, that the economy of Afghanistan has come virtually to a standstill. So there is a urgent need that a peace solution can be found out. So guys, it is a general prescription to all the stakeholders which are involved here, that is the Taliban, America, Afghanistan, that they should do. Moreover, India also holds a special position, but guys, India has not been that constructively involved. Therefore, it is on India that it should on its own attempt should try to broker the peace, because at the end of the day, a security problem in Afghanistan will also lead to security problem in India. So guys, this is the entire bigger picture which is going into the Afghanistan. So that's it. Now we'll move to next. Friends, this particular article talks about the problems into the urban governance structure, particularly into the metropolitans. Now, friends, into the aftermath of the pandemic, a new wave of urban governance crisis has been seen. For example, it has been seen that our top metropolitans are the most impacted ones. The 50% of the total number of cases are from Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, Chennai. The question comes, why? Simply because the authorities or the municipality was not able to contain the people or to provide the adequate health response, or simply the conditions of sanitary living or hygienic living was not there, due to which people are falling ill to infectious diseases. Now guys, as we are right now seeing a health crisis, see, from even before earlier, India has been characterized by very less health expenditure. Only 1.3% of our GDP is spent onto the health. Therefore, out of pocket expenditure is a bigger problem in India. Now, guys, according to the World Bank, 62.4% expenditure on health is out of pocket in our country, and world average stands at 18.2%. Again, why out of pocket expenditure? Because there is a crisis of governance and health needs are not being fulfilled, particularly into the urban areas. Even primary health care is not being provided, which is the failure of the urban governance. Further, not only infrastructure is not there, rather the manpower is also very much less. According to the WHO, there should be one doctor over 1000 people, but in India there is one doctor over 1457 people. So again, simply because of apathy of the government, this is a bad condition with respect to the human resource manpower in health sector. Now guys, see, the problem which can be traced is the non-implementation of the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, by which constitutional status to municipalities was given, and it was assumed that now the urban governance crisis will be reduced. But guys, it has been failed. We will be seeing certain examples. See, example number one, there is no focus on to the spatial planning with respect to the space, dwelling units, etc. Now guys, after 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, it was said that metropolitan planning committees should be formed into the cities with more than 10 lakh population, and these committees will look into the spatial planning, integrated planning, so that urban governance crisis can be reduced. But guys, if we see onto the ground, then according to the A6 2017 report, out of 18 surveyed cities, only 9 constituted MPC, that too only onto the paper. Substantial efforts were not taken. Guys, A6 stand for the Annual Survey of India City System. It is a very prestigious report with respect to the urban governance. So you can quote it into your questions. After that guys, second example of urban government failure, see, there is very less financial viability. So in financial viability, we see the ratio of own revenue vis-a-vis expenditure. Now here we can take the reference of Bengaluru. So guys, Bengaluru have 47.9% revenue is to expenditure ratio. It means that out of its total revenue, only 47.9% of its expenditure can be met. For remaining, it is dependent on to the state government. Similarly, take the example of Chennai. So out of its own revenue, only 30.5% of expenditure can be met by Chennai. It also depends on to the state, and this is the condition in almost all the metropolitans of our country. So viability is not there, and when the financial viability will not be there, always the citizen services such as health, education, infrastructure will be ignored. Then guys, we also need, apart from finance, the manpower, the personals. Now in India, the highest per lakh manpower is with the Mumbai, that is 938 personals. But guys, if we compare this with the world average, some of the countries, then in New York there are 5446, and in Johannesburg there are 2922. So guys, you can see the comparison where Mumbai, which happens to be one of the emerging financial trade center, is lacking. Then guys, after that, into the urban governance regime, the authority has also not been devolved properly. For the big metropolitans, there is a mayor. But guys, in most of the metropolitans, mayor is not directly elected, and therefore accountability is also questioned here. Then guys, even the tenure of the mayor is very less, and therefore he is not able to make any meaningful policies. For example, 2.5 years in Mumbai and only 1 year in Delhi and Bangalore. Moreover, the powers are also very much restricted for the mayors, so therefore the problems are coming. Then guys, next problem into the municipalities is the problem of transparency and citizen participation. So none of the metropolitans have functional ward committees or area sabhas in which people can give their input, in which they can exercise, and thus it is leading to the failure of the dream that by installing the municipalities and panchayats, people will be able to participate into the grassroots democracy. Now guys, there are so many problems into the metropolitans, and these problems cannot continue to thrive, because even though urbanization is increasing in India and large number of smaller towns have sprouted up, but still the metropolitans have a great relevance. According to the McKinsey report of 2012, it has been said that still 40% of the India's GDP comes from the 54 metropolitan cities. And guys, it was also said that from 2012 to 2025, whatever increment into the GDP will be coming, that 50% of it will be coming from the 69 metropolitan cities in India along with their hinterlands. So they happen to be the engine of growth, and therefore their relevance should not be undermined. Moreover, if we talk about the present pandemic, then guys, it has a particular feature that it is urban oriented, and therefore in order to defeat the pandemic, their relevance even becomes even more important. So this is high time that government should bring genuine reforms. For example, a kind of directly elected leader should also be given to the urban municipalities. And into the Tokyo, UK, as well as Australia, directly elected mayors have shown considerable success in reforming the urban governance. Moreover, not only they should be directly elected, they should be given a minimum tenure, for example 5 years also, so that they can make the long term meaningful policies. So guys, that's all. See, earlier UPSC has already asked the issues with respect to the failure of Panchayati Raj in India. So there is high time that the question onto the crisis into municipalities or urban areas could also be asked. So please duly note down all these things. Now we'll move to next. Now guys, this article is discussing about the criticisms of the EIA, and now every day the EIA is coming, and I had given you so many references. Guys, if you want to see the EIA, all the issues, disputes, problems, the earlier EIA I had explained comprehensively in 26 June discussion at this particular timestamp. So all the issues with respect to the EIA and this present article also have already been discussed. You can see it. And now we'll move to next. Now, guys, briefly here we can see that one more irritant is coming between the India and Nepal, a small irritant, that is the 1947 pact on the Gurkha soldiers. So, guys, we know you know that the Gurkha soldiers are serving into the Indian armed forces, and that is possible because of this particular agreement. So, upon independence, the Gurkha regiments were divided between the Britain as well as India. And guys, a kind of a tripartite agreement was signed between three countries, that is Britain, Nepal and India. And the services of the Gorkha soldiers into these two countries were determined. But now it has been said that there is a need that a bilateral agreement should be signed between the countries, because a lot of clauses are redundant into the present world. However, guys, there has been no official statement on this particular thing, so we will not be going too much deeper into this particular matter. Moreover, into the earlier days, we had already seen that the Kala Pani dispute is anyhow going with between India and Nepal, so that also happens to be a concern. Moreover, guys, the Nepal is also very much concerned with the Britain, because it has been said that though Britain is using the Gorkha soldiers into their defense forces, but they are discriminating with them in terms of the treatment, in terms of the privileges that should be given. So it is high time that a bilateral agreements with the countries should be signed. So guys, that's it, just a brief thing. Now we'll move to next. Now, guys, with respect to neighborhood policy, there is one more little blow for the Indian diplomacy. So, guys, what has happened? In Bangladesh, the terminal to build the airport into the Sylhet has been given to the China. Now, guys, there is one particular concern that India also applied to build the airport here, but due to the financial high bidding, India has been disbarred and China has been given the tender to build the airport. Now, India is concerned with this particular development because Sylhet lies very much into the vicinity of the northeast India, and this could be used as an excuse by the Chinese to increase their presence into this particular area. And as we had seen that the escalation onto the LAC is going on, relations are not good. So this could be a problem which is now concerning the India. Now, guys, because of this particular thing, the matter was raised to the Bangladesh, and the foreign minister of Bangladesh had said that Chinese have been preferred only because of their technical and financial competency, because of their low bidding. Moreover, guys, a question was also raised to the Bangladesh that knowing the LAC issue and confrontation, why the bidding or the tender has been given to China. So very brutally it has been said that we have heard that some incident is going into the Galwan, but your own prime minister said that not even a inch of land has been grabbed by the Chinese. So why the India is concerned? So guys, here we can see two things. First of all, onto the diplomatic front, your language, your wording needs to be very much careful, not only to appease the people or just to boost the morale. You can't say anything because they might have repercussions, as can seen into this particular example. Secondly, guys, it also depicts the kind of detroiting condition of India's foreign policy into own neighborhood, because now the neighbors itself are not respecting the sovereign concerns and the defense related concerns of the country, and such kind of things are happening. So guys, this is a reminder that an urgent intervention for the realignment of foreign policy in a neighborhood is needed. So there it could serve as a reference. So guys, that's it. Now we'll move to next. Now, guys, this particular article talks about the Indian dependence on China. See, guys, just some background. We have brought the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, where we had said that self-sufficiency will be built. Then, guys, after that, during the time, FDI norms with respect to the neighborhood countries have been changed, and it has been said that all the countries sharing the boundary with India, they need to seek the approval from the government before bringing the FDI. After that, 59 apps have been banned, particularly because they were having their connections with the China. After that, now even there are more than 200 apps which are in consideration, and guys, along with them, a kind of a Chinese anti-China sentiment is also going in our country. So guys, the thing is that it has been said that the countries are trying to decouple with China. Decouple means to disengage. Even USA is trying, but it has been said that it will be impacting both the countries and even India more. So guys, certain data have been given. Here it has been said that the economies are interwoven and interdependent, and had said that 2018-19 data shows 92% of Indian computers, 82% of TVs, 80% of optical fiber, 85% of motorcycle components are imported from China. So guys, these data can come handy when you are writing questions on such as the critical evaluation of Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan or decoupling, strategic decoupling with the China. So there we can use it. So guys, that's all here, and now we'll move to the question section. Now friends, please pause the video and try to answer the question. Question number 1 is with respect to the NASA's Perseverance rover project which has been launched. Please read the statement and identify the correct option. The question number 2 is with respect to the advantages of aerial seeding. So please read the statement and identify the correct code. Now, the question number 3 pertains to the fundamental right. Please read the options and identify the correct code. Then guys, question number 4 is with respect to the Atal Innovation Mission. Please read the statement and identify the correct code. Now guys, today's mains question. So today's mains question is from GS paper number 1, topic of urbanization, and it is a 10 marker question. So question says that World Bank once said India's urbanization is messy and sudden. Substantiate the statement and highlight the need of new governance architecture and importance of integrated planning. So guys, this is a little bit of open-ended question. Try to attempt it, and into the next class we will discuss the framework of this particular question. So guys, that's it. I hope you have liked the discussion. Thank you so much.